Hey guys, Veronica here. I'm in the greenhouse today and I want to talk about potting up the cuttings that we did a couple of months ago. Now these are about 2.5 months old at this point, and I was just kind of poking through the ones that I have that are still surviving and trying to figure out what I'm doing with them now that it's starting to heat up here. Because what happens is the greenhouse gets over 100 degrees on most sunny days, and I haven't figured out my ventilation issues yet. So until then, I'm trying to move as many plants as possible out to their permanent homes or into the nursery that I have set up in the forest, which we'll take these to after we're done potting them up. So the way that I know that these guys are ready for a new pot and they have roots established is, one, after 2.5 months, they still have some foliage. Also, one of the things that I'll do to check and see if it's still working out or not is I'll actually go in and I'll just gently wiggle the cutting. As you can see, this one is dead, but I'll gently wiggle it. And if it has a lot of play, like you look at that, and that has a lot of play in the base of the cutting, you can be pretty well assured that there are not going to be any roots in place there yet. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing this a whole lot with fresh cuttings because it can disturb sort of those connection points where the soil is meeting the stem and drawing out potential roots. But if you have ones where you're not sure about it, or even they give it a little twist and it moves, like, those are not going to work out in your favor. This one's pretty much a goner. I have a couple like that, but for the most part, the loss rate, I am pretty good at keeping around 15 to 20%. The ones that have taken, in order to determine if there's roots in there, I do the same thing. I will gently wiggle it or try to twist it. As you can see, there's not as much play on this. I'm using the same amount of pressure as I did that one. It's just that there are roots formed in this cup now. So we're going to pot it up into a larger container. Now, a lot of you guys have asked me why I eat so much sour cream, and the reality is that I don't. But I do have a dad that works at a restaurant where they throw away a ton of plastic garbage every single day. And so he could basically bring me a stack of probably like 50 of these every week if I had the use for them, which I don't. But I try to salvage as much as possible and reuse the plastic containers that are already in existence versus going out and paying for new pots. So again, we've drilled a bunch of holes in the base of this so that it will drain well. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take some of this soil mix that I've made for potting up trees to put in the forest. It's a combination of mushroom compost, and there's some composted wood chips. I'm going to basically inoculate it. There's some other composts and whatnot in here, but I'm basically inoculating it with a lot of the forest microbes and mycelium to prepare these trees to move out into the field or into other parts of the forest and just be ready to go. So I'll fill this up probably a little less than halfway, and then I'm just going to place this to see that it will fit. And then what I'll do from there is try and get enough compost up in it that I can push it up all around the sides most of the way. And you can kind of just push the cup in there to make a divot. It's not necessary. I usually just kind of pull it away and then push the soil in, but sometimes I'll make a little divot. And you want to make sure your soil's not super dry. Like you can see, this kind of squeezes together. I'm still going to water these after, but I try to minimize as much shock as possible. So from there, I'll pour off this top layer of sand and then gently squeeze this cup to release the plant, because we don't want to pull it out too hard and then disturb all the roots. But I've been noticing these are getting a little droopy, so I think they're starting to get a little root bound, as you can see. But that's okay, we can save them. So I'm not even going to loosen these roots, I don't think. Well, I'll loosen that one actually. Like, if it'll come just a little bit loose so we can get them diving down into this pot. And so I'll move that back and then just drop them right in there and then put more compost on top. And that's pretty much it as far as potting these guys up. I just want to get it in a bigger container so that it will survive the summer. And from there, we're going to move him and all of the rest of his friends out into the nursery in the forest. So let's move them out. And so now we're in the nursery, and I'm just going to dig a little spot for this pot to sit a little bit lower in the soil. And I'll clear away these leaves and make sure there's not any snakes hiding or anything else I don't want to touch with my bare hands. And then the reason that I'm digging down just a little bit in this space is twofold. One, it's to encourage the roots to keep a certain temperature throughout the summer, so they're going to stay cooler in like a temperature that they would be used to as far as actually being in the soil versus in pots. When they're above ground in pots, the root zone tends to be a little warmer, and since these are all very tender, either grafted trees or from cuttings or even from seed, I really want to set them up for success in the soil as much as possible. And then also, I'm hoping to get some of the life that's in the soil in the forest, as far as just like microbes and mycorrhizal fungi and whatnot, to kind of start crawling their way up into this pot and working their magic on the carbon dominant, composted wood chips and whatnot that are mixed into this potting medium that I built for the trees. So I got a little briar root in my way. Get that guy out. But so I'll just bury them probably like halfway, maybe a third of the way. I don't go super deep. I could bury them all the way. Like, I have a few pots that I did do that with, but I think that just enough of it will be good. So we're gonna do that. There's a frog or something in the bushes behind me. I hear it. And so you'll see this is about halfway, and then I can pack this forest soil right back around it to kind of help insulate this little tree. And this is a great spot because, as you can see, the sun's starting to go down now, but it gets pretty good sun throughout the morning, midday, even into the afternoon, really dappled and nice, but not, a ton of shade. So it seemed like an ideal spot to do this sort of stuff, and a good place to keep all of the trees that I plan on putting out in the field for phase 2, because again, the ultimate goal is an orchard. Now the figs, I'm not sure that they're going in the field yet. I think that they may have a spot in the forest that's going to be like a little secret hidden fig garden that you can stumble upon. So lots of surprises in store, but I'm really happy with the way the grafted trees are turning out. So there may be a grafting video in you guys' future, though it's going to be months away. But at least we have some figs in the meantime, and some other really interesting trees coming up soon. And that's pretty much how I'm planning on caring for these guys through this year. If you're going to keep a fig in a pot, you want a much bigger pot than this. But I found that this, gallon or so, half gallon size suffices for less than a year, which is the plan with them ultimately. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. As always, if you like what you see, then hit that subscribe button and follow me on Instagram at FlavorKit for more gardening tips, more behind the scenes views of all of these, trees and projects and whatever I'm working on. And until next time, happy gardening.